Okay, starting with excision, benign, and malignant lesions at the bottom of page 364 in your chapter. Excision benign lesions said, the CPT manual divides the category of excision of lesions on the basis of whether they are benign or malignant. They're two separate sections. Although at the time of excision, okay, sometimes, it's not known for certain whether your lesion is benign or malignant. The physician makes an assessment of the lesion's status and usually plans the extent of the lesion based on that assessment. The codes in the excision benign lesions category are assigned for all benign lesions except skin tags. Remember, they have their own section. We talked about them earlier. The codes include local anesthesia, so numbing that area, that's all included. You don't have to report that separately as you would, or if you did, it would be called unbundling. We definitely don't want that. Excision codes also include the simple closure, as all removals do. Okay, as we go through, you'll see that. So that simple closure is included. If it's layered or anything more than simple, then we would put that extra code, on top of that. The coding shot at the top of the page 365 is good. You're not to assign the shaving codes if the shaving penetrated through the dermis. Remember, full thickness goes to excision. We wrote that in, or you will if you haven't watched that video yet. We look at the size and the location. With the malignant lesions there, again, we need size and location. I thought they did a better job. We really have to go to the CPT book, it looks like, to know how to code these. And I think of the pictures that are page 83 or around the benign. They're in between the benign lesions and kind of the malignant lesions area in your CPT book. Those pictures show you, and we do have notes in the main video, the CPT notes video that tells you to highlight in your code book. The code selection is determined by, you measure the greatest diameter of the lesion, the greatest diameter, plus any margins. Okay, plus any margins. So the greatest diameter plus any margins is how you code the removals. So maybe the mole or the cyst or the abscess is 2 by 3. Okay, and that's what it'll say, 2 centimeters by 3 centimeters in measurement. We take the 3 centimeters because that's the largest diameter. It could be long and skinny, right? But we take the largest diameter, okay? The greatest or largest diameter plus any margins. And with margins are the healthy skin that is around our lesion that sometimes will be cut out just to, quote unquote, make sure that we got it all. Okay? So there's not always margins, but sometimes there is. Okay? It just depends on the patient and the situation and the lesion that we are removing, whether it's benign or malignant or not. So if margins are noted, we have to include them on both sides. Okay, so they might take a 0.5 centimeter margin on one side and a 0.5 centimeter margin on the other side, and the diameter is 3. We now have a lesion that measures 4 centimeters. 0.5 on the left side, the 3 centimeter diameter in the middle, so that's 3.5, and then the 0.5 on the right side, which equals 4 centimeters in diameter. So I guess I thought that the textbook had the pictures in here, and they really don't. We really need to focus on the CPT book there, which, just as well, that's the book that you have and you're going to keep. So make sure you understand how to measure those very well as you go through, okay? Also, we want to make sure that we are not noting anything malignant unless we know for sure. Okay? We definitely don't want to be coding anything malignant unless we know for sure. Nails, pilonidal cysts, and introductions are talked about next. If you turn the page to page 366. I guess with nails, You can read through talking about podiatry here is kind of where we see this the most. A little bit of debridement there as well that it says in the book. On the top of the next page, I kind of have highlighted avulsion, and I wrote down next to it, it keeps the root if we do an avulsion, which means it will grow back. The nail will grow back if we do an avulsion. Okay? It says avulsion is the separation and removal of the nail plate. Again, it preserves or keeps the root so the nail will grow back. Down underneath that coating shot, it talks about, getting rid of, if you remove the nail plate, okay, or the root, then that will not grow back. So a lot of times because of accident or injury, things like that, those might be one or the other ways that they treat those. Pilonidal cyst is talked a little bit about on page 368. You can read about that. Introduction is more, and you see some of these bold terms here, tattooing, tissue expanders, implantable contraceptives. That would be an introduction as well. Repair, and this kind of backwards that they talk about repair right now because we've kind of talked about it as we went through, but this really is a good place, and all of this information is listed in your CPT books as well. So you want to make sure you listen to the notes lecture and write all your notes down. Repair is stitching. Okay, if you need stitches, and it might be because you have a wound or you had a traumatic injury. It might be because we removed a lesion and needed stitches. Remember all the time, almost all the time, that simple is always included. Anything more than simple, usually, we want to make sure we charge extra for that physician's expertise. I do have written in, or highlighted, remember the length, the complexity, and the site. We talk a little bit about Dermabond with simple repair. Dermabond is also included in that. So really pay attention here to the CPT book when you're looking at your simple, your definition of intermediate, and then your definition of complex. Complex, I don't think in 12 years of coding I ever coded really complex. Because I did not work or code for an emergency room. And I feel like if something was that complex, we would have sent them to the ER. It really needs to state very explicitly, so you need to be careful with that. Remember, and I also have in the notes video that 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. That's great area here in your repairs to write that down. Again, that's 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Also, I have it written on the very front, just inside the front cover of my CPT coding book as well. It's easy to find there. The thing with coding repairs is that CPT lumps anatomic sites together if they're at the same level. So if you have a simple repair of the arm and the finger or the hand and then the scalp, okay? If you look at code 12001, you can see, and they were all simple. Scalp goes together with neck, the axilla area, external genitalia, trunk, and or extremities, including the hands and feet. So I can add 2.0 from the hand plus 2.0 from the scalp and a 1.0 from the arm, and I have a 5.0 centimeter simple repair. I can add them all together because CPT does. And 5.0 would code to 12002, 2.6 centimeters to 7.5 centimeter repair. So if CPT lumps those anatomical sites together and they're all at the same level, they're all simple or they're all intermediate or they're all complex, you may do that same thing as well. So make sure you read through that. There's a lot under repair in your CPT coding books. Make sure that you pay attention to that. If you turn the page, tissue transfers, grafts, and flaps, these are good to remember. We do go over these again in advanced coding, so it's not that you have to know these as in depth as what the book goes into. But remember that adjacent tissue transfers or rearrangements are an adjustment. They're still connected. There's still a blood supply. So if you think of a four-sided square or box, you cut 3 sides but leave the one side connected. And it's really an adjustment or a shift. They will pull it and move it here, but it's still connected. It still has that blood supply to keep it healthy. That's what a tissue transfer is, or rearrangement, okay? Skin replacement surgery is talked about on page 353. You can read through those when we talk about split thickness and full thickness, free grafts, skin replacements, things like that. There is a good video here that when I do this class face-to-face I show, and it talks about a skin graft. And I don't know if I've told you this before. Nucleus Medical Media is a site on YouTube that has a lot of medical videos, but they're not blood and guts. Okay, so they're really good. They have a good skin graft video. I think it's like 3 minutes and 30 seconds long if you want to look that up. Nucleus Medical Media skin graft. On page 374, they talk about autografts and allografts. Remember, auto is self. Aloe is other. Okay, so an autograft is something that is coming from the patient's body, and allograft is from, something else. Really, we can turn to the other procedures. Page 377. Dermabrasion is talked about here, chemical peels. We talk about cervicoplasty, blepharoplasty, rhytidectomies, some more cosmetic type things there. Pressure ulcers are talked about on page 378, 379. We do go through these a little more in advanced coding as well. The coding shot is really good there under the images or the stages of the pressure ulcers on page 379. Make sure you read through that. Burns is talked about. Again, we go through burns a little more in depth and advanced coding, so we kind of skip over them a little bit in intro. Destruction. And I think this goes to be said in I-10 as well, in your I-10 class. You really need to know where to start in your index. Are we excising something, cutting it out, or are we destroying it? And it talks about, destruction of lesions by means other than excision, because we know excision has its own codes. So it says electrosurgery, cryosurgery, chemicals, things like that. That's destroying a lesion, and that's what lesion destruction is. So you need to be really careful. Read through that section in your book and highlight. Mohs surgery is talked about. You can go right to the M's in your index and find Mohs micrographic surgery. Again, this is when they go layer by layer to remove a lesion, and they will take a layer off and go look at it under the microscope. Yep, it's filled with malignant cells. So they go back and they do another layer, and they put it under the microscope. Yep, there's still malignant cells. And they keep doing this until they finally have a layer that doesn't have any. It's all healthy cells, and then they know they got the whole lesion. So Mohs micrographic surgery, it's very pinpoint, it's very precise, but it does take a long time because you have to wait so long. They have to go look at it and then come back, and so it's kind of longer for the patient. Breast procedures are talked about on page 384, 385. Simple or complete mastectomies, modified radicals, and radicals are talked about there. You need to make sure that you read through those and understand those as well. And then the coding shot at the very end of the chapter on the top of page 386 is kind of a very good note for you. So again, remember with the integumentary system that this is all superficial work. This is work on the skin. The difference between that and then the next chapter, chapter 15, musculoskeletal, is that we are deep. Is the cyst up on the skin and in the skin structures, or is the cyst down on the muscle? Okay, it's really about the depth that we're at when we're doing some of these removals, so you need to pay attention to that. Watch all videos and let me know if you have any questions.